Despite its somewhat dubious name, the Gaylord Gladiator was a car that showed no end of potential, a grand touring sports convertible built to do combat with the venerable marques of Europe like Jaguar and Ferrari. Unfortunately, regardless of all its advanced technology and unbeatable luxury, this car never went beyond a handful of examples, while at the same time holding a mixed reception, primarily due to its looks, despite the fact that these belie a truly cutting-edge machine for its time. The Gaylord Gladiator was the brainchild of brothers James and Edward Gaylord, heirs to a fortune that their father, Solomon H. Goldberg, had amassed via his hairpin empire in Chicago, the pair being avid car enthusiasts, specifically the products of recently departed brands such as Bugatti, De La Haye, Duesenberg, and Stutz. Despite the loss of these marques, this was largely made up for by the arrival of a new trend for European grand tourers that swept the marketplace throughout the 1950s, providing nimble and fast machines that were unlike anything that had come before. The Gaylord brothers, therefore, quickly came to the conclusion that they should develop a grand tourer that mixed the finest aspects of the new European metal with the exquisite luxury and comfort of contemporary American cruisers, providing discerning customers with cars that had the power and agility when needed, but weren't just bare-bones machines that were impossible to use on a daily basis. Dubbing their prospective model the Gaylord Gladiator, the brothers took a leaf from their father's book when it came to his ingeniously simple bobby pin design, by applying such principles to the car's chassis, James Gaylord developing a tubular center structure made of alloy chrome molybdenum, which was both lightweight and robust, using channel steel perimeters and platform, together with neoprene-impregnated body mounts to reduce vibration and absorb road noise. Meanwhile, the rear suspension was a conventional live axle design with leaf springs that were positioned on the frame for ideal geometry and balance to achieve optimal handling, the front suspension, by contrast, being a typical wishbone setup, but incorporated incredible wheel travel and minimal flex. The Gladiator also adopted a hydraulic servo unit, where the driver could adjust boost via a cockpit control dial, which meant this advanced chassis technology could allow for a combination of exceptional ride comfort but superbly precise grip that outshone pretty much every other model on sale during the period. Internally, the Gladiator was fitted with a bespoke cabin that incorporated the finest leather and wood veneer available, with custom-built video gauges that had their indicator needle styled to look like the spear in the Gaylord emblem. At the same time, the spare tire was stowed neatly in a rear subcompartment that could easily be accessed in case of use, and the car also featured the world's first electric-powered retractable hardtop as designed by James Gaylord, which could be raised or lowered with the touch of a button and was operated using a chain drive that was powered by a single electric motor. Subsequent to the Gaylord Gladiator, this technology would not appear again until the Ford Fairlane 500 Skyliner of 1957, though this required 7 reversible electric motors in order to extend and retract the heavy metal roof into the trunk. Total weight for the Gladiator came to 1.8 tons, which was an exceptional achievement in lightness when considering all the internal features, a necessary trait given the sporting pretensions of the Gladiator, which would be provided through the use of a Chrysler Hemi V8 for the prototypes and a Cadillac-sourced 305 horsepower V8 with dual carbs for the production models. Both the prototypes and production models would adopt a rear-wheel drive 4-speed hydromatic transmission, this drivetrain having been derived from the contemporary Cadillac Eldorado, but due to the lightness of the Gladiator, meant the car could achieve a 0-60 time of 8 seconds and a top speed of 120 miles an hour. For the external styling, famed industrial design firm Brooks Stevens & Associates was hired to pen a body that updated the general aesthetics of classic 1930s sports cars, such as Bugattis, for the 1950s, the result being a machine that adopted a long sweeping curve from front to rear that was well proportioned, and, in its classic black and white paint scheme, gave an appearance that seemed reminiscent of an orca whale. Perhaps the most notable feature of the car's exterior was its use of open front wheel wells and 2 gigantic Lucas P100 headlamps from the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud that were integrated into the body, these being added at the insistence of James Gaylord so as to pay homage to the large circular headlamps of older sports cars, the lights being separated by a tall, narrow mesh grille that sat above a narrow fender. The prototype Gaylord Gladiator eventually made its debut at the 1955 Paris International Auto Show, and had been assembled by the West German Karosserbau Spohn of Ravensburg, a firm notorious for not following the more traditional linework of French and Italian styling houses, and instead provided far more abstract interpretations when it came to designing car bodies. Sadly, though, the reception of the Gladiator at the Paris show was not the success hoped by the Gaylord brothers, with visitors unimpressed by the gigantic headlamps, while the bodywork provided by Spohn was not a quality item, with considerable amounts of lead having been used to shape the voluptuous body that rapidly deteriorated. The Gaylords, in light of Spohn's performance, opted instead for full-scale production to be outsourced to the Luftschiffbau Zeppelin of Friedrichshafen, while the giant Lucas P100 headlamps were only ever used in the first two prototypes, with James Gaylord having to accept the public verdict on their inclusion by replacing them with a set of 4 Lucas sealed beam headlamps, as later used on the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 3, together with a more practical closed front wheel well. The resultant car was arguably much more crisp and handsome when compared to the prototypes, and with many of the more outlandish styling features removed, had the potential to warrant greater appeal to the average customer, while additional creature comforts were included for the production models so as to increase its livability with regular drivers, such as air conditioning, supercharger highway passing horn, emergency lamps over each wheel for necessary tyre changes, tinted glass, and driver tonneau covers. Furthermore, the automatic electrically chain-driven retractable steel hardtop roof was still in evidence, though the outcomes of all these features, together with the outsourcing of construction to the bespoke West German car-building firm, came at a very steep overall price. Against the Gaylord brothers' original proposal for a machine that would directly match Ford's Lincoln Continental at $10,000 or $113,195 in 2023, the asking price had now climbed to an unmanageable $17,500 or $198,000 in 2023, meaning only the most exclusive of customers could potentially take on the Gladiator, and their marketing strategy had to be changed from a more mass-production machine to a niche model that would only see 25 examples built per annum. Finally, in 1957, the first production example rolled out of the Friedrichshafen factory and was immediately lambasted by James Gaylord, who desired nothing short of perfection for his new car. Gaylord, seeing the perceived lack of finish and quality, as the West German builder having not lived up to the terms of their contract, taking Luftschiffbau Zeppelin to court over the matter. This led to the production of the Gladiator being halted indefinitely, as Gaylord and the car builder undertook a protracted international legal battle that was fought in both American and West German courts, the expense and messy outcomes of which drove James to a nervous breakdown and ultimately left his brother, Edward, to insist that he drop the lawsuit in 1959. This spelled the end of the Gaylord Gladiator saga, with only 5 chassis ever being built, of which only 3 received bodies, 2 prototypes and 1 production example, the production unit, together with one of the chassis, now residing as part of a private collection in Phoenix, Arizona, after years with the Gaylord family, while of the 2 Lucas-lamped prototypes, one was confirmed destroyed, while the second was apparently stolen from the Gaylords in the late 1950s and traced as far as France before disappearing completely. Today, the Gaylord Gladiator is one often forgotten within the wider world of motoring, while those who are aware of its existence generally take this machine at face value, either due to its somewhat humorous name or the bombastic looks of the original 2 Lucas lamp prototypes that garnered such public scorn back in 1955. Despite this unfair reception, though, the Gladiator, had it made it to full-scale production, would have presented potential buyers with a sports car model unlike anything output from either the European or American auto builders, with its incredible mixture of advanced technology, striking bodywork, unbeatable comfort, and sure-footed performance being leaps and bounds above the competition, and, for the right price, could have become the everyday sports car for the buying public of the late 1950s.